So I just shared a little bit about Wednesday before the wedding that I got to have with my girls. And then I'm going to fast forward to Friday. So my daughter and her fiance got married on July the 30th. And July the 29th was a day where we had the bridesmaids function and we had our rehearsal and our rehearsal dinner. And again, another day where I could say was Glimmers of Heaven from the Lord. And I'll say this, I think it's really important for those that may not know parts of my story, but I was married for almost 11 years to Keller's father, and then divorced for 6 years, and then remarried for another 13 years before having to make the difficult decision to leave this marriage again. So when I talk about glimmers of heaven, that doesn't mean a perfect day where everything lines up in perfection. Perfect sometimes is sitting in a place of ambivalence, which is the good and the bad. It is Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane who knows that he's getting ready to have to go to the cross, and he knows what he was created for. And he knows he's about to be absent from his Father because he's having to die for us. But he's in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he says, if you would, if you can take this cup from me. So it is joy and it is mourning. It is happiness and it is tension. But I truly believe that the Lord continues to give us those glimmers of heaven with both of those happening. But that's actually where we meet Jesus. It is Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk in the valley of shadow of death, you are with me. Your rod and your staff bring me comfort. And that's kind of what Friday was. Woke up early. I kind of have a morning ritual where I get up and I go run and exercise and spend time with the Lord, processing some things while I'm on a run, while I'm exercising, and shower, and then sit down and have a long quiet time with Him. And so I got to do that, and then just prepare for this bridesmaids luncheon, which was going to be all of the girls that were in Keller's wedding. And Keller and sweet mother and daughter that gave us that. I'm going to say Lois Bradford and her daughter Mary and Coleman Hudson, who just got married the month before. They did the bridesmaid luncheon for us, and it was absolutely amazing. It was breathtaking. So we got to enjoy that. It was all the girls, and so just spectacular. And just getting to sit and visit. There's just something to describe the entire week. Really, it's just peace, like blissful peace. And having gone through some really hard, difficult seasons last year and the beginning of this year, to be able to say my soul was at rest, my soul was at peace, was just in and of itself just the Lord. So we have this bridesmaid luncheon, and then went home and changed clothes and were able to go to where we were having the wedding, which was Rockers Farms in Chelsea, which is about 25 minutes from where I live. And had the rehearsal, ran through that, but the rehearsal dinner was probably, it's really hard to say between the rehearsal dinner and the wedding, which was better, but they were both just memorable moments that I will remember forever. So we go to this rehearsal dinner at Leaf and Petal, and unbeknownst to me, Keller and her future mother-in-law had the seating arrangements and everything for the rehearsal. And anybody that knows me knows that I have a little bit of attention, I'm not going to say ADD, I'm just going to say has always, since I was a little girl, had issues with sitting still for long periods of time. Outside of having a long quiet time and sitting still early in the morning to spend time with the Lord, or reading a book, or spending time on a paddleboard long periods of time. I don't love to sit still. And sitting in the chair, even getting my hair colored or something like that, can be very painful. I remember lots of times growing up getting pinched in church because I couldn't sit still. So because of that, the reason why I share that story with you, because of that, I've always, for the most part, sat as close, if not on the front row in church, as an adult, because I don't want to be distracted by all the commotion behind me, or, oh, she's got cute hair, or look at her dress, or whatever. It's like I can totally focus on what's in front of me. So the reason why I'm sharing that with you is there was this microphone and this slideshow area where they were going to do a slideshow of all their pictures growing up. But then the microphone where people were going to share at the rehearsal dinner was right there. And I was as close to that as could be. And so when we truly understand the love of our Father, He is in the details. He is in the details. And that alone was such an answer to prayer that I didn't even know was a prayer that I had, because for me to get up front and center, to get to hear from every single person that shared, and to not have any distractions behind me, to get to just soak up every moment of that evening was magical. It was really supernatural. But I got to sit next to Riley and Keller, and there were so many moments throughout the course of the evening where I would just put my arm back and we would grab arms, and it was almost like there was communication happening without communication happening. But I think going through separation and a divorce last year, and then kind of being tethered to this wedding, there were some things that I missed out on. And part of that being very, very relational, and being not only in relationship with my kids, but I've always been in relationship with my kids' friends and their extended friend group, whether that's carpool or having everybody at my house, or lots of beach volleyball and tennis and all the things. I've just always been a very active person in the lives of my kids, but also all of their friends. One of the things that I was experiencing some loss and some grief around was not getting more time with Hudson as well as his friends, partly because he lived in Atlanta. But normally, had he lived here, I would have probably had them and his friends over a good bit just to get to know them more. So there were some things that I missed out on, but also knowing and hearing as much as I did about Hudson. And, I was as settled as I could be going into this wedding, knowing about him, knowing about his family, and all the things. But what I was not prepared for was the ongoing conversation, the ongoing communication from person after person after person, from Hudson's dad, Hudson's brothers, Hudson's friends, Keller's friends, Hudson's friends about Keller. And when you raise your kids, it says train up a child in the way that they should go. But what we interpret that sometimes as train up a child perfectly, and when he is old, he will not depart. The hope of that verse for me is pour into your kids. Be as intentional as you can. Pray over your kids, knowing that we are broken. We're both beautiful and we're both broken. But do the best that you can and engage with your kids. And the hope of us is that God is going to be with them. And how they turn out is really very supernatural. But to hear from these people, Hudson's friends, because I knew all of Keller's friends, but to hear from his roommates and just, he was so intentional and the conversations that they had, and what I have really tried to invest in my own kids is the value of relationships and community, where you are really truly known. They know the good, the bad, the ugly. They hold you up when you feel like you can't be held up anymore. And that to see my kids step into that type of community, and then to see my daughter date somebody who he didn't put that in place after he met her. He already had that in place. And this rehearsal dinner was just a culmination of what I think every mother wants to hear of raising their kids, but the friends that they have, the community that they have, the intentionality that they have, to hear, Hudson sharing the gospel with people, Keller sharing the gospel with people, and the impact on their lives that they had had. It just was. It's what my mama's heart needed to hear. But I share that to say the following morning, I just kind of sat in that moment that whole evening. And I just was like, I was so present, so could remember almost every detail, every word that was shared the entire evening. But I went on this run the following morning and I woke up, and it was like the emotion hit me. And what the Lord showed me on that run, as I was praying with him and just thanking him for what I got to experience that night, God continued to remind me, Mel, this is how much I love you. That everything that's important to you and the things that I see that you did not have in your marriage, those things didn't go away that were that important to you. That I love you so much that I am giving those things to your baby girl through her husband, through her future spouse. And oh, there was something so extravagant about the love of your Heavenly Father. He knows those kinds of details. He knew how important those things were to me. He knew that I didn't have those things. Yet he allowed my daughter to have those, redeeming some of my pain, redeeming some of the hurt and the harm that I've been through. And when I was marketing one of my girlfriend said, of course God did that for you. You're one of his favorites. And so that rehearsal dinner, hearing Hudson's dad say, I learned from Hudson. Hearing Hudson's roommate say, Keller has raised the bar for the kind of woman that I want to marry one day because of the life that I've got to see her live out in front of us. To hear Hudson's brother say, I want to be like him one day. Y'all, it's a glimmer of heaven. And the reminder that God's right. Good story. He loves us so much. And so I just really felt like I needed to share that, because we don't know what writing your story is going to look like. I don't know what the next 5-10 years look like. There will be more glimmers of heaven. There will be more heartache. But these are the moments that I believe when life gets hard, God says, remember rehearsal dinner. Remember the Wednesday before Keller got married. Remember who you are. Remember whose you are. Remember the great life. This episode has been brought to you by Togetherness Project, women helping and empowering women to rise above unexpected hardships. We do this by providing education, safety, and support through coaching, courses, and faith-based communities.